workers who will start nevertheless, they will come where they already started. I welcome you again, and now is the time for the panel discussion. If you have questions from the room, please raise your hand now, or otherwise we will start with some other questions that we have on our side. Is somebody raising their hands or not yet? Not yet, it seems. All right. I would like to ask the first question to all the panelists. Is the railways, the new Silk Railways Road, is it a game of bottlenecks at this point in time? Is it a game of who will get the most capacity at the bottlenecks instead of being capable to have more trains? Bonnie. Is it a game of bottlenecks where you need to have more capacity at the bottlenecks of Malazevich, of Mansouli, of Kogos, and so on? Speak inside the microphone, please. The microphone are not working.
我首先介绍一下，我是大洋物流的联合创始人，我叫邦尼。然后通常业界都可能比较少看到我，我们的COO Johnson 通常在这个业界比较活跃。那我今天很荣幸，我特别感谢咱们这个深圳市交委以及我们的协会，然后给我们一个这样的机会，同时来承办这个论坛。那针对中欧班列的这个瓶颈的问题，我认为首先可能是因为咱们这个中国跟欧洲，咱们这个“一带一路”的这个倡议实在是太火了。那么它带动了整个中国跟欧洲的这个产业以及这个整个贸易，包括物流，所以它的这个增长过快。它这个量，咱们刚刚也可以看到，它的这个增长的这个速度是非常快的，所以造成了在这个沿途国家，咱们的这个车底以及整个海关转关啊，比如说换装啊，整个跟不上。那么这个应该是各个国家的铁路公司可能要共同来解决这个问题的。所以我认为这个瓶颈的话，应该是属于不仅仅是口岸吧，包括这个整个车底，中欧班列的车底运能这一块，应该是还不足以去应对整个这个“一带一路”倡议下的中欧班列这么火热的这个市场。谢谢主持人。
Any other panelist would like to comment on it?
Should we work?
Yeah, it's working.
It's working now. So regarding your question, I can say only something from my experience, which is on a European side. Yeah, I cannot comment any problems on the China side or on the Russian side, which is not my personal experience. So regarding bottlenecks, sure, as I showed in my presentation, the bottlenecks are always border crossings where you need to change documentation to reload containers from one train to another train. And currently I see the main bottlenecks are the all main railways connecting Russia border, Polish-Germany border, also Czechia, for example, because due to the huge of money ready to be invested, the railways are investing a lot. Yeah. So, and many times the trains are blocked on the way between the borders and Western Europe because they simply don't have enough paths and space on the railways. They have to either wait or to use some other bypass, yeah, which is still not exist everywhere. Yeah. And I would say also one thing, a lot of things could be changed and improved by better planning, by better communication with the railways and better communication with the customers. Yeah, means to be proactive.
Thank you. Chidan, I would like to ask for your insights regarding, we have the bottlenecks challenges, but we also have other challenges. Can you please describe to us what they are?
刚才大家介绍的是硬件这个方面的一些瓶颈，我这里更关心的那些瓶颈的确存在，始料不及嘛，中国班列的发展这么一个速度，出现这个问题是很正常的，现在就是要抓紧解决，但是同时也给我们提供了很多的机会，所以我们要更快的走出去，把那些堵点呢这些要尽快的加大我们的建设。 把这些硬件的问题解决，但是我更关心的就是我们中国班列怎么健康发展行稳致远的问题。就是实际上就简单几个问题，一个就是我们现在啊还是比较混乱，现在还是处于我们中国的那个春秋战国时期是一场混战的阶段，所以我们现在到了发展了8年了，我觉得应该到了规范的时候了，也有这个条件的规范的时候了。 那么就要是我们要下一步要做的，首先就是要从区域的联动、区域的合作方面，不要没有条件也上，千万不要创造条件去上，实事求是，本身区域联动，这样就会用更集中我们的优势，集中我们的资源，优化我们的资源，节约我们的资源来做这个事儿。这个牵涉到就是一个政府层面、企业层面的一个问题。 再一个就是我们要在我们的发展的质量上，我们不要单纯的追求我们的数量，这同样也是对一个政府的一个考量的一个东西。我们要追求的是一种高质量、绿化的发展。所以说明年也有可能，我们这次我在30号我也刚好到了总公司，在我15号、16号全国发改委、国家发改委也会在。 从来没召开这么一个高层次的会议，会在重庆召开。它就是取经，怎么来保证中国班列更好的健康发展。我们同样会提出，可能我们以后的导向不是班列数，尽管我渝修线是最多的班列数，但是我一直倡导我们是以纵向率，但这只是第一步，纵向率只是第一步，我们还要求一个高品质的、符合客户需求的，还有一个很关键的是合理的售价。 合理的售价，而不是恶性的竞争。这样的话是现在我们可能面临的一个主要的问题。只要解决了这些问题，逐步的解决吧。中国班列我相信前途还是很光明的。谢谢。
This is now a question for Olga, for Edwins, and for Rodan. We know that there is a need to upgrade or improve the existing infrastructure on the European side as well, for the bottlenecks especially. And now we know that China is investing heavily into the Belt and Road Initiative as far as infrastructure is concerned all over the world, especially in those designated countries. How much do you need, or would you welcome investments from China in upgrading the existing infrastructure?
I should say that I completely agree with Mr. Chidan regarding this thing that nowadays this is not the game of competition, that is more the game of cooperation, domestically and globally. And if you look at the capacity of the infrastructure of the Russian railways, it's it's enough to welcome all the volumes which China is now going to bring on the transit routes. The only point that we should pay attention to is actually working in close cooperation, be able to plan, to forecast, to operate the whole growing volumes that are coming on transit routes. As you saw in the presentation from our CEO, Mr. Valentic, there are 3 major routes with volumes going from China to Europe. They're exiting China in 3 points, but they are entering in this, as you mentioned, bottleneck, 1 entry point to Europe. But if we manage to, first of all together cooperate on planning the volumes, and at the same time look closely into developing new routes, including multimodal routes, it may help all of us to accept to bring these growing volumes to the market.
Okay, thank you very much for these questions. I would like to say that we should discuss also about standards, about standardization, because Latvia, I will say, we in a very unique situation. Why? We are a European Union country, and we should follow all regulations which came from the European Union. On the other hand, we are working in territory where is a 1520 millimeter gauge, track of gauge. It means that we also follow all standardization, all actually standards rules in this territory, 1520 meter. And I see that we are in reality, it's a good buffer, I would like to say, that we can understand both also European Union and also this CIC countries actually understanding and technical rules. But if we're talking about investments in infrastructure, we are working very tough for improving our capacity about infrastructure. And I'm already mentioned in my presentations that we are looking for electrification in our country. But for sure, it's very important that we should follow also to Russian railways and Belarusian railways in the same actually situation. Why? Because it's very important to avoid all these bottlenecks, also from technical specification point of view, because we are in one corridor. And in reality, this 1520 millimeter gauge is working very well, because if we're looking in the fact, we are talking right now about 1,300 kilometers per 24 hours in 1520 millimeter gauge. But when actually we are talking about European Union, just 700, 750, and as I see, we should improve it. And we are welcome for also Chinese entrepreneurs and investments also in Latvia, actually improve all this capacity of our infrastructure. What I'm talking about, electrification, about I talk about robotic project as such, and also you know very well this project Moscow-Beijing railway for cargo movement as such. And as I see, it's good possibilities also prolong this project from Moscow to Riga. There is already special line and special territory for it, and it makes also possibility to improve all this capacity for movement of cargo. And when we see all these facts, actually 4-time volume should be in next years bigger as today. It means actually also infrastructure should follow all this, or should follow all these amounts as such. Thank you.
Michal and Rodan, the question is also asked to you. How much do you need and how much would you welcome Chinese investments?
We, as train operators who are satisfying our clients, would like to see more investments into the European infrastructure. But there is another problem we see currently. In the world, I can say it's a lot of money for investments, and it's a fight between the investors and construction companies who would like to spend money, and between the operators who must satisfy their clients, and these two sides are not so much cooperating. Especially railway infrastructure managers in a single European countries are investing a lot of money, which is fine, but it's not in a good cooperation with the single operators. And what's happening now in Western Europe in general, and especially in Germany, also in Netherlands, for example, due to the many construction works on the main corridors, but not only, the trains are, let's say, late or not driving as planned. We spend more engine drivers, and the European railways doesn't have enough. That's one of the bottlenecks in Western Europe. The companies, railway companies, simply forgot to invest into education to educate the new people to be engine drivers. And really, in the last months, it's a crazy situation, especially in Germany, because of a low water in a Rhine river. So a lot of trains are now requested to be driven by the other companies. They, in the meantime, drives barges on the river. So maybe it's one of the impact of the global climate change, but sure not. But the situation is in Germany like that. And this breaks, let's say, the process and satisfying of clients to drive in time all the trains.
Okay, so I am one representative of maritime transport between the speakers. So from my point of view, the Chinese investment, it is a very important role will be in the future. I'm talking about from port perspective, because as you saw during my presentation, we are planning to build a central port, which we are planning to spend about 2 billion euro for this project. And we are talking with the Chinese companies for the construction company and operational companies. Of course, from the railway perspective, for us, it's very important to connect the Port of Gdańsk directly through the Malaszewicze and Łódź to be one road. Is not connecting somewhere else on the dry terminals, but for us, the most important thing that the railway should be directly connecting with port, because the total cost will be lower than if we will be reloading point by point the containers or the other commodities.
Thank you. And now is a question for both Bonnie and Chidan. We would like you to give us a description of the reefer or cold chain market on these railways network. And for the other four speaker panelists, I would like to know, what do you see is a need from your side in Europe? Bonnie, please, you first.
说到这个中欧班列的冷链运输，大洋在这块比较没有经验，但是我们这个可以交给我们的于新欧负责人戚丹总。
这个问题很好。 实际上我们的鱼腥肉的历史就说明，我们一开始就是为了引进那个产业结构升级嘛，咱就是要引进信息产业，那些把惠普当时就为了把惠普宏基华硕引进来，他们当时主要生产的是笔记本电脑，所以一开始我们就就对我们有很高的要求，到了冬天怎么办？所以我们一开始我们的起点就比较高，我们就在着力的解决这个问题。用了一两年，我们在那个一两年，我们就开发了这个适应我们那个电子产品的运输的，在极寒的天气里，在那个室外温度-4度以下，可以在20天这么长的极寒的天气下，那个集装箱的室内温度保持在-15度以上，这样的话就是可以满足那些电子产品的运输。这就我们进行了艰苦的努力，所以这个产品呢，现在是我们正在生产国家的知识产权、实名商标，现在正在做这个事儿。这个事儿呢，就解决了我们冬季运输的问题。所以我们每年另外我们还有一种方式，就是比较传统的方式，就是用动力的方式。动力的方式呢，就是用柴油发电机，用我们我们现在火车上跑的还只能用柴油发电机这样一种恒温箱的一种方式。我们自己开发的就像集装箱里面用了一些特殊的材料，是物理性的，不用动力，就像穿了衣服一样，保持这样。所以现在我们的主要是用像电子产品的运输，我们就是用我们的保温箱，我们自己开发的。每年的运输量，特别在冬季我们的运输量基本上能够达到2000个箱吧，只是冬季的运输是2000个箱，特别是为惠普这些索尼微软这些的运输。另外就是冷链，还有恒温箱，我们就用冷链，像我们的奶制品、肉品也一直在运，但这个量相对目前来说需求很大，但是因为成本特别高，恒温箱的成本就非常，发电机箱成本比较高，所以这个就对它的选择比较大一点。但是我们也一直在运，现在的发展呢还有一个过程，怎么来推广？因为首先它的成本比较高，怎么来解决成本的压力，这个是很重要的问题。谢谢。
The four other panelists from the European side, do you see a demand for a cold chain for reefer containers?
Yes, I should say that the cold chain logistics and reefer containers is the key issue when we speak of the delivery of food products. I should also mention that now the Russian government is highly supporting the exports of agricultural products from Russia, and China is going to be one of the key markets, of course. We are now targeting to increase the amount of agricultural exports more than 2 times within the next 5 years. So, of course, a significant part of these agricultural products will need the basement of the cold chain logistics. I see that we are already looking closely at this issue. I see that within Russia we need to pay extra attention to development of infrastructure for this cold chain logistics, especially the equipment of the terminals, the provision of reefer containers, and so on.
The other panelists? Any insights on cold chain from your side?
Yeah, we see the big demand of the clients for these reefer containers, but not only for the containers. We see during the 20 last years in Europe the system of transport of the food in a reefer wagons is completely gone. Yeah, so there are not existing reefer wagons. Yeah, which is good because of intermodal solution. It could be always solution, and for the future, sure. Yeah, this only will be solution. I know already 2 companies in Europe who are developed the, let's say, new system of the containers, or how to plug the containers into the electricity on the wagons. Yeah, this is, let's say, a big challenge. Yeah, how to solve this problem in intermodal transport. Yeah, to avoid of consumption of oil by diesel generators on reefers. Yeah, simply to be plugged into the electricity on the wagons. So similar systems as I used in passenger transportation. Yeah, in heating of passenger wagons. Yeah, the similar systems are now in creating phases in Europe. I know the two companies. In Russia, it's more or less solved by wagon generators, I heard, and I know. Yeah, but to use locomotive and electricity from wires could be solution, yeah, as in the passenger trains, yeah. And it will come, yeah. Everything is on the way. These systems are now in a certification process, and it will help to improve this food transportation, also for the long distances, not only in Europe.
Thank you.
And finally, I would like to just summarize only that we have no such problems like this, because if I compare the problems from the seasides, it's not exist actually, because as you know, the reefer containers carrying the goods directly to the ports, and they staying in the ports, it's about 10% of all throughput. It's reefer containers on our depots in the container terminals, and then most of these reefer containers are carrying by the trucks in and out of the port. Thank you.
Thank you for that figure.
Just I'm absolutely agree with my colleagues because it's really, there is a space for market, and not only space but also the needs for customers. If I look to especially Scandinavian countries, there are huge of market, especially seafood market, which actually delivered to China by ships right now, and in reality we should actually work right now very tough on this market side, and just question who will be the first one.
Thank you. Now, we talked a lot about the block trains between China and Europe, but we didn't talk about the traffic with the countries between China and Europe, Russia, Kazakhstan, Southeast Asia, Central Asia in general. Now, do we consider, or do you consider from China and from Europe that as an opportunity, or it's not a market you're looking at? Maybe Bonnie and Chidang first, and then the European panelists after. Bonnie, maybe. Do you only consider block trains China, Europe?
Let Mr. Chidang first, okay?
All right. Mr. Chidang.
都把都推给了我，我们是一个站好的嘛，我回答和他回答都一样。这样的那个刚才说的很好，“一带一路”刚才那个赵总解释了“一带一路”的什么个意思。我们习总书记在重庆就叫我们要做“一带一路”的无缝的连接，无缝的连接。这个连接，因为我们重庆有长江，什么都有。放的是啥？喂，那个现在我们就在搞南向通道，就是我们把班列，因为现在只能开到河内，中老铁路包括到新加坡的铁路，现在还正在中老铁路还正在建。 可能在2022年吧，还要等几年，我们等不及了。我们现在只能开到河内去。等中老铁路开通了，中泰铁路开通了，甚至新加坡连过来了， 那么我可以告诉大家，我们这条线路的生机和潜力是无可限量。我可以告诉大家，我们重庆到新疆阿拉山口已经快要现在要3600公里，我到泰国也就3000公里，可能不到。如果再到新加坡，那么我们这个如果这铁路现在是由于铁路设施还没到，正在修。如果说这个修通了，那么它的潜力可想而知。那么我们就那个现在我只能开到河内，但是已经显现出来它的一些那个力量。现在我们的就至少把河内通过了我们重庆跟欧洲紧密的相连起来，所以大家还要关注到我们的南下通道。这个几年过后，一定会有很好的这个发展。就现在的一个动向，我利用这个机会也告诉大家。
我觉得大家对这个“一带一路”应该都知道，咱们有一个新丝绸之路经济带，以及有这个海上丝绸之路。那其实深圳作为整个广东省，也是应该是属于大湾区。我们现在有个叫大湾区。那么深圳作为大湾区的这样的一个依靠咱们深圳港这样全球前3的这样的一个港口的优势，其实我们完全可以把这个“一带一路”把在深圳建成一个大湾区的这样的一个枢纽。“一带一路”2条腿走路，因为我们不能光有中欧班列，我们应该还有海上这个丝绸之路，我们也应该把海上丝绸之路跟咱们的这个新丝绸之路经济带中欧班列把它打通。那么其实现在应该是铁路这块跟咱们的海关以及包括整个客户的需求吧，这一块应该在将来会有非常非常大的一个发展，因为这是一个趋势。这跟我们今天的这个论坛的主题是符合的，我们是水铁联运，将来在多次联运领域，那么其实这个是非常非常好的一个发展前景，我觉得将来会有很大的一个市场。
Thank you. Thank you, Bonnie. The European panelists, I'd like to have your insights. Keep in mind, China produces between 30 to 50% of what the planet produces. So there is huge volumes from China. The block trains that we talk about are bonded. That means they never stop. They are not allowed to stop, to unload or upload. Things which are loaded in China will be or have to be offloaded in Europe and vice versa. So that we understand, but do you consider as well as a potential market and target the Central Asian countries? That means we use the same infrastructure, but not to go to China, to go to those other countries, Southeast Asia, Central Asia, and so on. How are you looking at it?
If I can say several words about it, because I agree with you that combining the railway system with the ports, it's a good solution for the future, because we are talking all the time about the whole system, Belt and Road, as a one route between China and European countries, European ports. And sometimes, as you said, some destinations which are located in the middle of this road can also send his goods directly from China, for instance, I don't know, from Middle Russia or from Kazakhstan to the westbound or eastbound. And in my opinion, ports are a very important transportation point, because there is a possibility to combine the sea roads with the land roads, and this combine could be the beginning of the path of the cutting the costs, in my opinion. So this is why, for instance, my home port of Gdańsk, we are starting to talk to provide all the rail tracks directly, for instance, in my opinion, to our port, to my port, for instance, not to Malasiewicz only, or to Łódź, for instance, which is in the middle of Poland, and then it's a huge distribution center, but directly to the ports. As you said, because the containers or the other commodities shouldn't be loaded and unloaded, because costs are starting to higher and higher after each, let's say, moving the containers from the wagons to the terminal and back.
Thank you. The others, no comments? No problem. I will go for the next question. Now, there are improvements that can be made, and there are probably many improvements. I would like each of you to give us, in the order of importance, the 3 most important improvements that you think would help improve the railways between China and Europe. Bonnie, you first.
只能说一点吗？OK， 我觉得中欧班列之间吧，咱们需要建一个在通关这方面，以及在运价体系这方面，我觉得各国铁路之间应该有更多的这个发展的空间。
Okay, so for me, first of all, it's a direct connection to all the railway system to my port. There's a first one, and I agree with you that custom clearance is also very important. It should be something like smart and secure trade lane, as I show you during my presentation. And the third one, it is tariffs, of course, because as I mentioned earlier, sea transport is coupled of times, let's say, has a smaller price than the land transport. So there's a reason why how to improve, how to cut the costs. There's a 3 main, from my point of view, 3 main conditions to improve the road transport between China and Europe.
From my point of view, I would emphasize first better cooperation between single partners, between single railways, operators, customs offices, terminal operators, which is still missing. Yeah, it's a daily practice. Yeah, then also better cooperation on the really low level. Yeah, because we cooperate quite good on the top level. Yeah, all the managers, owners of the companies. Yeah, they are projecting the trains. Yeah, everything is fine. But if you put the train to the realization, yeah, it needs to be better managed. Yeah, that's one of the main problems. Then second, maybe digitalization. Yeah, maybe documents flow should be more simplified than today. Yeah, single customs offices and states have different rules. Yeah, some of them needs still the papers. Yeah. Some of them accept electronic forms, yeah, or email communication. And the third, maybe cooperation with these construction companies and investors with the railways and the railways operators to, let's say, look for optimal solutions, not as today.
Thank you.
Yes, completely agree with the colleagues. After all we are looking for here today is speed and reliability. And yes, we need more to be more cooperative. We need to look more closely to the documents flow, to try to meet the target of electronic documents flow. From myself, I would probably add one suggestion is that all of us should look for new routes, for new solutions, and not to be afraid to try these new solutions, to find better ways to meet all these growing volumes.
Thank you, Olga.
好的，这个中欧班列涉及到是个非常大的一个宏伟的一个系统工程，涉及到这么多国家， 涉及到各个方面，包括那个货代、铁路承运商、海关、商检，牵扯到那个我们的那些客户，它是一个非常大的系统，所以每一个问题都非常重要。现在问题都很多，所以我还是那句话：共商、共建、共享，各个方面做出自己最大的努力，把自己的问题解决好。我相信中国班列，只有这样，我们中国班列才有一个健康的发展，一个光明的前途。
Thank you.
I put for sure to the first position is digitalization. From very broad and wide actually perspective. It's very important what already our colleagues told, that it's very important to send to customs, to border guards, to these official units in digitalized forms, and it helps especially for speed. Another point is it's already discussed, it's cooperation among many institutions as such. For example, sometimes also in different cross-border points, there is different requirements from customs service, but with actually in one country, but different requirements as such. It's also very important to understand how we should work with documentation and which documentation we should follow for sure. This cooperation, it's really. And in the third position, it's again standardization of all technical requirements in all blockchain as such.
Thank you. To finish and conclude, I will ask you a question, and I would like each of you to answer either yes or no, nothing else. So would it be time, along the deployment of the Belt and Road Initiative, to create, at the moment when we are on the block trains between China and Europe, we cross three economic zones: the China economic zones, the ex-USSR economic zones, and the Europe economic zones. Would it be time to create a Belt and Road Initiative economic zones that put all these together? Bonnie, yes or no? Yes, thank you. Michal?
I should say several more words.
Yes or no?
Yes, in the far future.
Thank you. Rodan, yes or no?
Yes.
Olga, yes or no?
Yes, in the future.
Chidan, yes or no?
我不这样说，多益世宝实际上已经成了经济特区了。多益世宝，我到多益世宝已经成了德国的经济特区了。
Okay.
肯定是 yes。但实际上，欧洲的市场已经很成熟。
Thank you for the translator. I was not sure of the translation. Edwins, yes or no?
There is just two positions, yes and no, yes.
Thank you very much. I now conclude this panel discussion. Thank you very much for your time and your attendance to this conference. And we would like to invite you for next year, I suppose, CILF conference, which you will be notified by email.